Hello guys, gals, non-binary pals, and waterfowls. It's me, Big Mike, and if the tone of my voice sounds a bit different from normal, doesn't sound quite as upbeat, quite as happy, it's because in this video, we're going to be looking at one of the weirdest and possibly one of the scummiest practices I have ever stumbled across in my time online. And that is obituary piracy. And yes fam, you heard me right. Piracy involving notices of people's deaths is something that really happens. Not even death is sacred anymore. But anyway, before I get on my moral high horse, in this video we're going to be talking about obituary pirates, which sometimes I may shorten to Obit pirate, their history, their emergence on YouTube, why this happens, and fighting against them. So buckle up fam, cause we're in for a wild ride today, and not in the normal crazy fun way. This is crazy in a depraved, sick, disgusting way. Before we get too far into talking about obituary pirates, we need to discuss their practices. There are two different approaches to obituary piracy, and in this section, I will explain each and give a famous real-world example to illustrate them. One practice of obituary piracy will target someone who is still alive, usually someone recognizable and or trending on social media, and write a fake obituary for the person. This was the case with Deborah Vankin. Deborah Vankin, a Los Angeles Times journalist, discovered in January of 2024 that fake obituaries claiming her death had been posted online by obituary pirates. These scammers made videos with fake news anchors and morbid imagery to create clickbait obituaries, filled with keywords to boost Google searching rankings and generate ad revenue. Vankin learned of the hoax from her father, alerted by an aunt who saw the obituary online. Her father, understandably quite alarmed, called her to discover, much to his relief, that she was in fact still alive. Vankin, however, was quite shocked to discover this. However, this was not only something that impacted her personal life, but it also impacted her professional life. She was set to conduct an interview for her work when the person she was set to interview came across one of her obituaries online. Confused, the interviewee contacted Deborah's place of work, wondering if someone else would be coming to interview her instead, due to Deborah's untimely passing. Fortunately for Deborah, she was able to get everything sorted out and has since become one of the more prominent voices shedding light on this phenomenon. She believed she was targeted, possibly due to a spike in search traffic from an article she had then recently published on freeway anxiety. The second practice, and the one we're going to be focusing more on, involves scraping and reposting obituaries from funeral homes and sites like Legacy.com, a practice long considered ethically questionable. These piracy sites often excel at SEO, ranking high in search results to drive traffic and earn revenue from premium digital ads, displayed alongside text copied directly from funeral homes, newspapers, and other legitimate obituary sources. Some even exploit grieving individuals by selling sympathy gifts, such as candles or flowers, and keeping the profits. What happened to Gary Stubblefield is a textbook example of this practice. Gary Stubblefield was a well-known figure in Coral Junction, Missouri, celebrated for his roles as city alderman, realtor, and active participant in the Coral Junction Chamber of Commerce. He was often seen flipping burgers with local newscast hosts or dancing at community events to support arts initiatives. Steve Scott, a reporter and co-host at KZRG Radio, described him as a cornerstone of the community, having interviewed him at least 50 times since 2004. Following Stubblefield's death in March, heartfelt tributes flooded Facebook from friends and family, and obituaries appeared in local newspapers and on TV stations. However, a YouTube video titled Gary Stubblefield Passed Away, Family, Coral Junction Community Mourn His Death surfaced, featuring a man urging viewers to subscribe to the channel, before reciting part of Stubblefield's obituary, notably lacking the personal photos or stories typical of reputable news sources. So now that we have a good idea of their practices, let's take a look at the history behind obituary piracy. For years, text-based obituary piracy has been a persistent problem for the funeral industry, with some sources relating that the problem goes as far back as 25 years ago. While the exact origins of obituary piracy are unclear, the practice emerged with the rise of online obituaries in the late 1990s and early 2000s, as digital platforms made it easier to scrape and republish content. By the mid-2000s, reports of obituary piracy began surfacing, with spam websites exploiting obituaries for ad revenue and sympathy gift sales. A 2014 blog post by Frontrunner Professional explicitly highlighted obituary theft by third-party marketers, indicating that the issue was already widespread by that point. Things started to get much more attention in 2019. A company called Afterlife, headed by Pascal Paco Leclerc, was successfully sued for copyright infringement. The company had plagiarized 1 million Canadian obituaries by copying them word for word and even using their photographs, all without permission. And perhaps even more disgusting, the site was also selling tokens of sympathy for the deceased, with the company pocketing all of their proceeds. As a result of the lawsuit, a judge ordered Afterlife to pay $20 million in damages and placed an injunction against the website to prevent it from operating in the future. While Afterlife may have an injunction against it, Pascal would go on to found a second company, Echovita. The company searches the web for new obituaries and posts summaries, avoiding direct copying to sidestep the copyright issues that plagued Afterlife. Scott Gilligan, General Counsel for the National Funeral Directors Association, has stated, "The site is guilty of flim-flamming the unsuspecting public into believing that the family of the deceased is somehow connected with the website." And as of 2025, a brief Reddit search shows that Pascal is very much up to business as usual. One such complaint reads, Echovita is a website that scrapes funeral home websites for obituaries, changes some details, and posts them without approval to their site, where they then have links for friends and families to light a candle, purchase flowers, or plant a memorial tree in your loved one's memory. Of course, all of the revenue goes directly to them. My dad's obituary appeared on this site 3 hours after posting, and I'm trying to get it removed. The owner of the site already had a $20 million class action judgment against him for a similar website called Afterlife. Echovita has a subreddit where they are posting obituary links and appear to be hiding comments. These people are ghouls preying on people at their worst times of their lives. Everyone should be aware of them and this scam. It was reported in Canadian media that the site generated $5 million in revenue for the owner last year. Echovita isn't alone in using such methods. Barbara Kimmis, executive director of the Cremation Association of North America, noted in 2021 a growing number of obituary piracy reports. In Detroit, some families reported a website that reposts death notices under false names to collect funds for unrelated funerals, according to Phil Doma, executive director of the Michigan Funeral Directors Association. In February of 2021, the Bereavement Authority of Ontario issued warnings about websites that advertise flowers and services alongside plagiarized obituaries, only to keep the profits instead of delivering the promised gifts. This issue won't disappear because it's so simple to carry out, says David Brazo, a spokesperson for the Bereavement Authority, a government agency. From looking at these endeavors, it's clear that obituary piracy can be seen as a type of long-tail SEO, exploiting a vulnerable audience with targeted ads and products. And for those who don't know, a long-tail SEO is a technique for generating high-value organic website traffic. It targets long-tail keywords, which are search terms that consist of 3 or more words. They also have a lower search volume and competition rate, as well as a higher conversion rate than short-tail keywords. For the Obituary Pirates, a single obituary may not drive significant traffic or profit, but their ease of creation makes it a volume-driven strategy where quantity matters most. And this is the modus operandi of not just these text-based websites, but also, as we're going to see in our next section, the YouTube-based Obituary Pirates as well. In this section, we're going to be talking about YouTube's Obituary Pirates. There are numerous obituary pirating channels that call YouTube home, of varying natures. However, they are united by the type and quality of videos they put out. One would be hard-pressed to differentiate between one video and another from any given channel. They tend to feature lone men sitting, quite frequently lounging, and speaking directly into the camera, while some don't feature a person at all, but rather someone reading obituaries as a voiceover to accompany hastily made slideshows of candles and photos of the dead stolen from their social media. The audio is of a similar quality. Funeral marketing consultant Robin Heppel describes the sound quality as, "The audio is crappy, they've got fans on, it's not professionally done." Some of these channels are quite industrious in how they put out these types of videos too, uploading new videos every few minutes. Cause, as with their text-based forerunners, quality is of no concern, it's quantity that's king. Most focused only on obituaries, however some will also cover other news, such as one that put out a video with a story on an orangutan throwing a possum from its enclosure at Australia's Perth Zoo. Some obituary YouTubers advertise products in their video description, such as a $225 Amazon vitamin C cream, while others insert SEO-driven keywords like death, cause of death, die, RIP, or what happened. Despite minor differences between channels, they all share a hasty, careless style, showing no emotion or recognition of the profound loss they're addressing. One thing to note is that most of these channels have a small amount of followers, with some of the larger ones having only 2,000 to 3,000 subscribers. The largest, according to some sources, is just a bit more than 26,000. These channels tend to garner millions of views, with the highest having a total of 1.7 million. However, when you look at individual videos on these channels, most have no views, and those that do often are only in the single digits. As again, just like their forerunners, a single video isn't really important, but it's the amount of views such a high volume of videos brings in that is critical. Despite the poor quality, and not to mention taste, some of these channels have amassed enough views to join the YouTube Partner Program. And for those who don't know, if a creator or channel wants to monetize their videos, they must enroll in YouTube's Partner Program, which requires meeting certain benchmarks, like having at least 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 public watch hours within the last year. Some of these YouTubers candidly and shamelessly call their channels money-making ventures. One such YouTuber was Cottage. Tonsvi. If I mispronounced that, please forgive me. Anyway, he states that following his videos will bring loads of cash. Surely you'll earn thousands of dollars per month, he says. So now that we have a good idea of how both the text-based pirates and the YouTube Obituary Pirates operate, let's take a look at why this happens. Well, the short and simple answer is there's money to be made. Exactly how much we'll discuss momentarily, but the fact of the matter is that any can be made is enough to incentivize pirates. This problem is deeply rooted in how the modern internet operates. Matthew Crane, an associate professor of media and communication at Miami University, who studies digital advertising, describes this type of content as the inevitable outgrowth of an advertising-based, engagement-driven internet business model. Under this model, the integrity or quality doesn't matter. What matters is that you can convince some ad tech platforms that a valid ad impression has been served. That is the primary goal, Crane explained. Obituary pirates aim to exploit search interest in specific individuals, incorporating keywords into their content to boost Google rankings and drive traffic to their websites, or in the case of YouTube, their channels and videos. Obit pirates hope to capitalize on search interest in a particular person, often including keywords in their stories so the content can be ranked highly on Google and therefore direct traffic to their site. For example, in Deborah Vonkin's story, Obit pirates only posted her obituary after her name was trending because of the article she wrote. If there's a high enough volume of clicks on these spam websites, their operators can approach advertisers to try to get them to buy space to display their ads. If they are successful, they will be able to earn money every time their page has a visitor, and that visitor clicks on a promotion. This type of activity stands apart from other scams, where everyday consumers are singled out and defrauded of their hard-earned cash. The anonymous Obit creators appear to mostly target companies paying for digital advertising. Kate Nibbs, a senior writer at Wired, perfectly summed up this relationship, saying, "I do think that the people who are making these videos are acting callously towards the bereaved. It's quite a tasteless pursuit, but it seems as though it's a pursuit driven by desperation. Like they're casting around looking for ways to make money online. And it's because these platforms prioritize traffic above good taste that it results in strange cottage industries like this. Making money is indeed their end game, but exactly how much money are they making off these tasteless endeavors? As mentioned above, these scammers get paid by ad networks for the clicks they receive. Professor Lisa Given, who teaches information science at RMIT University, explains, "Let's say it's 10 cents a click or whatever it might be. It's a matter of scale and reach. So if you're targeting someone in this obituary who is a celebrity that is very well known to the public, that's going to get broader reach and therefore more clicks. If you're then doing that for multiple different types of people, you can imagine that those clicks and those small pennies on the page do start to add up over time. Some of these pirates, such as the aforementioned Kordos Tonsvi, claim to have made thousands via this scam. However, experts point out that this is likely an exaggeration and the real amount is like in the hundreds of dollars. In fact, Social Blade's analysis of one such channel estimates that it could make $33 all the way up to $529 a month, or $395 to $6,300 a year. In this last section, I want to look at the fight against obituary piracy. If you search through social media like Reddit, you'll find many posts, like the ones we saw earlier, of people complaining about obituary pirates. You'll see people are quite upset, rightfully so I might add, about how their loved ones are being used. These people are monetizing our loved ones' deaths, one post reads, while another, it's predatory towards people who are heavily grieving. If there's nothing that can be done about this, that's extremely sad. And that last one raises a very valid question. What can be done about this? To combat the practice of stealing obituaries from legitimate sources, you would think filing copyright lawsuits would be the way to go. After all, the families of the victims won their copyright lawsuit against Afterlife in 2019. Well, it seems the Obit pirates learned from that situation. YouTube obituary pirates typically paraphrase information sourced online rather than copying it word for word. While obituaries are creative works that are copyrighted, as are any pictures associated with them, the information and facts they contain are not. One Obit pirate YouTuber channel even includes a disclaimer stating their videos fall within the boundaries of the fair use doctrine. And based on my knowledge of copyright issues, this is true as far as I can tell. Nathaniel Lubin, a fellow at Harvard's Berkman Klein Center for Internet and Society, explained, "If it's public domain information and it's accurate, I don't know what the case would be other than it's kind of weird. But there's plenty of weird stuff on the internet. On the other hand, even if they were violating copyright law, enforcing the copyright would be a very difficult task. Determining ownership of obituaries is complex because no single entity controls them. Obituaries may be written by the deceased, their family, professional writers, or staff at funeral homes or newspapers, with no standard author. Since obituaries are non-commercial works, their creators rarely focus on ownership. This makes identifying the copyright holder challenging, as ownership depends on who wrote the obituary and any agreements made during publication. Complicating matters, the text and accompanying photos often have different owners, with photo copyright belonging to the photographer or their employer. Establishing ownership is essential for copyright-based actions, such as issuing takedown notices or pursuing lawsuits, as only the copyright holder can act. In the United States, filing a lawsuit in federal court or with the Copyright Claims Board requires registering the work with the United States Copyright Office. However, most obituary authors don't register their work, as their focus lies elsewhere, not on claiming ownership. Even if registered, pursuing legal action may not be practical. Damages for a single obituary are typically minimal, making lawsuits unfeasible despite the emotional distress caused by misuse. Another possible point of attack many people have attempted is flagging this content, as it may violate platform content guidelines or even be a brand risk for advertisers. But this too has proven to be ineffective. Discussions of death in and of themselves aren't problematic as long as it's educational, informative, or scientific, or within the context of a news feature story on the subject. The sad reality is there is nothing that most people can do. This is a systematic issue, and only by the system changing can this issue be resolved. As a result, it's up to platforms like Google to get involved to update their policies to keep up with the times. And to their credit, so far in the fight, that is where the greatest success has come from. Google launched an attack on Obituary Pirates. Targeting the text-based variety, Google updated its spam policies to exclude results of the lowest quality out of its search. It highlighted defunct websites now used for spam by new owners and Obituary Pirates as addressed in an updated policy on scaled content abuse. These are categorized as such because they are mass-produced to manipulate search rankings while providing minimum user value. On YouTube, the company combats this by rigorously enforcing their spam, deceptive practices, and scams policies. And according to Google, these updates have significantly reduced the presence of obituary spam in search results. And a cursory search on sites such as Reddit seem to confirm this, as posts and replies mentioning the issue have become almost a thing of the past. Trying to find channels on YouTube now that practice this is almost impossible. In making this video, trying to find accounts to show you, oftentimes, what little I could find, I had to rely on the Wayback Machine. So as of now, I would say the war is practically over. But with that being said, don't expect these types of things to simply vanish. According to Professor Lisa Given, people that make money through these kinds of disinformation campaigns know that there's value there. They're going to find different ways to work around the system. So even if it's over piracy today, it might be something else tomorrow. So what do you think about obituary piracy? Have you or anyone you know been affected? If so, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear your story. And with this, our look at obituary piracy comes to an end. So special thanks to Fran, who does a wonderful job of doing my art. She's back on Twitter now, and she's looking for friends in the art community. So if you're looking to have art done, or you're looking for friends in the art community, please follow her. She is a fantastic artist. She's amazing to work with, and she's all around fantastic. A special thanks to my friends on Twitter. I wouldn't be here without you all. And a special thanks to all of you for watching this video. Please like this video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, and please comment below and let me know what you think. And until next time, fam, remember, just be yourself and you'll be awesome. Peace out!